What the heck is this? Like, is this actually a leaked slide? Is it real? Is this Intel's like entire plan for their graphics card lineup, including pricing and performance targets and all of that? Well, I have a lot of thoughts about this. I'm going to analyze, first of all, do I think we should believe any of this? What actually is this thing? And second of all, then we'll look at, okay, if we do believe it's real, what does it actually mean, and my thoughts on that situation. But in general, I'm super excited to get a third player in the discrete GPU market. Thank you. Regardless of how it actually goes, more competition is good. Now, what is this thing? So there's a lot of places reporting on this. You'll see this at places like WCCF Tech. I've seen it at Video Cards. I've seen it on tweets and all sorts of places. Where did it actually come from? It looks like it came from this forum post on Baidu, and I have it Google translated into English here, because this was certainly not in English. And this appears to be the original source of the information, as far as I can tell, which means that I can't necessarily confirm that this is a good source. I don't know who this person with the crying little cat tears is, or what their track record or insider intel information might be. However, let's dig into the slide itself a little bit, and hopefully none of this Chinese here is offensive. I have no idea what it says. It didn't Google Translate for me, so maybe it's calling me a stupid American looking at this slide. I don't know. Anyway, what do we have here? So, first of all, it appears to be the proposed DG2 lineup with apparently 2 chips. Now, that doesn't mean there wouldn't be multiple cards within each of those chips, similar to how, like, you know, your RTX 3090 and your 3080 Ti and your 3080 are all technically the same NVIDIA chip that's just cut down versions of it with different amounts of RAM and things stuck onto it, right? So you could get a few different SKUs out of this chip, and it's showing us its power draw targets. So it looks like the SoC1 is from 175 watt to 225 watt, and it looks like the SoC2 is 75 watt. And then it's showing it up against current NVIDIA and AMD lineups, and it's showing us those pricing and, you know, I guess consumer tier targets. They're calling it like Enthusiast Plus, Enthusiast Performance, Performance Plus, Performance, Mainstream, Mainstream Plus, you know, and entry level. Now, do I think that this is real? I would actually argue that I think there's a good chance this could be real. It does look like the kind of thing that you might see from some sort of internal Intel slide kind of showing their plan here. However, that doesn't mean that this is current. This could be old, but also reasons why maybe it could be a fake. Well, for one thing, there's a couple odd things on here. Like, we do see a Radeon 6500 XT, although that doesn't actually exist. So this could just be that they're projecting their thought for what that would be and its pricing target, right? And also they're not saying the Radeon RX 6800 XT. So missing that little RX piece, you know, is that something that somebody just making up a fake slide would do rather than the people at Intel would do? Well, honestly, these names are pretty long here. So it might just be that, you know, they just for space reasons cut the RX. You don't really need it. But there are a few little inconsistencies here that I think are worth taking note of. However, let's go ahead and just jump into, okay, what if we do think this is real? Then it does seem to line up with some other leaks that we've seen, which has been putting the top end of Intel's discrete chips as something like an RTX 3070 competitor. And that seems to be what this is saying. However, I really think that some people are reporting on this as if they can actually read the slide and they know what it means, when I'm not sure we can really actually know what the slide means. Because here's a question, feel free to argue about what you think it means in the comments, but does this mean that the SoC1 top end is competing with the performance of the RTX 3070? Or does it mean it's, and the Radeon 6700 XT? Or does it mean it's competing with the price category? Or does it mean both? Okay, right? Because are they saying that we're going to slot this into this pricing category, but the performance could actually be better than that? I think a lot of people reporting on this is just saying all these things line up, the price and the performance, but in my opinion, this slide doesn't necessarily say that, although that's certainly a way that you could read it. Now, another thing that I'd like to talk about here is that I really like to see something, because I'm reading this, in my opinion, given that the most left-hand column here is the pricing category, I would say the most confidence I could read into this is that these are pricing targets. Maybe they're also performance targets, but they could be pricing targets and then just showing what is currently in that the competition for those MSRPs. And we know that none of these are really selling at those MSRPs on a regular basis, at least right now. Now, we'll see how it is in a couple of months when when the Intel GPUs actually launch. And shortly after their launch, we'll get some AMD and NVIDIA refreshes, NVIDIA Supers, and then towards the end of next year, we'll be getting the launch of the next series, although probably just the top end. But anyway, if we're reading this as it's targeting these price points, what I like to see is the bottom end here. Notice that AMD and NVIDIA have completely abandoned, with their latest generation, the sub $300 market. $300 is a lot of money for a lot of people when they're throwing together a PC. So currently, NVIDIA does have the 1650 Super sitting down here, but in terms of their newest lineup, we have not seen anything below the $329 MSRP of the 3060. Remember when there used to be $100 GPUs at the bottom end? Well, it's looking like Intel might be looking to deliver in that category. Now, it would be even better if we saw the sub $100 GPUs as a real thing, but honestly, nobody looks to be targeting that anymore, and I think that market these days is being filled by the APUs and the iGPUs. I just think with how much you need to put onto a chip to make it better enough than an iGPU or an APU, it does kind of make sense that with current prices for materials and everything, that targeting that point might just not make sense anymore, unfortunately. So anyway, I am really excited if we see them just undercut all the competition in terms of MSRP. That would be fantastic, and I think that's where Intel can really succeed here. If they're able to just come in with aggressive pricing, hopefully a lot of supply, but aggressive pricing, undercut the competition with some entry-level markets, and then, like I said, this might be lining up with these performances here, and if they can really hit these pricing targets, fine, I think that's okay. But like I said, I'm not sure that's what this means. There could be a range of performance happening here, and these are just the pricing brackets and their current competition, which is not how this is being reported on a lot of the other things in forums and comment sections that I've seen talking about this. But that's how I would read it, is that these are pricing targets, not performance targets. It's pricing targets with their current competition. Now, what do you guys make out of all this? If you look at the range, if you did read, let's see, what if you did read this in terms of performance? So, where is a 1650 to a 3070 range? Just to kind of throw this in at the end here in case you're not familiar with what do all these numbers mean anyway. Okay, so if we do pull up a tech power-up chart, the lowest end chip there that we saw lined up was a 1650 Super from NVIDIA. And then, so if you're looking at, I currently have a GTX 1060, that's fairly close in terms of performance, right? Or maybe you're on an old, RX 480, that's falling a bit short. Maybe you're on a GTX 970, that's 87% of that performance range. And then again, we saw the higher end chips being up there around the RTX 3070, which is quite a bit better than that 1650 Super. We're looking at a 2.6 times increase in performance over that. So you can get an idea scrolling through here of about where your card might fall relative to those targets. But like I said, I think these are pricing brackets and might give you similar performance. We'll see. Now, is Intel too late to the party, given that we'll be seeing the NVIDIA Super refreshes and AMD's rumored to maybe getting some refreshes as well prior to the launch of their next chips? I don't think they're too late if these do hit right away and there is some supply available at these kinds of price brackets, because I mean, just realistically, we don't see any of these cards selling at these price points. And I think it's absolutely fine for Intel not to be competing at the highest end here. Like, and I'm like, again, realistically, 6700 XTs, I've finally been seeing some in stock on Newegg for sub $800 that actually sit in stock for a while, like $790, okay? The 6800 XT, I got a reasonable deal recently for $1199. I mean, again, we all know it, but these aren't the prices that these things are really selling at. So just getting a new wave launched somewhere like these price points would be really good to see. Anyway, it's my daughter's 5th birthday today, and she's about to finish eating breakfast and watching her little morning cartoon. So I'm going to sign off here, but you guys, let me know what you think in the comment section. I'll try to jump in there when I can. Hope you all have an excellent day. Here's my off button.